Hello, Year 7s. Today we're going to look at life in the Sahel region. Last lesson we looked at life in Sudan, which was, a particular country in Africa. Today we're looking at the Sahel region in Africa, so it's a number of countries, okay? Your start activity after you write down the date and title, the ruler, and underline that. What challenges, what issues do you think people would face if they live in this Sahel region? As it says there, use the images to give you some clues. Think about, here's a continent of Africa. Think about what the colours mean in terms of temperature. Here you've got another map, but this time it moves from a couple of months. Again, what does the map of Africa look like in terms of heat? Are there fluctuations? Does it go blue sometimes, And look at this image here. Look at the soil. Does this mean there's a lot of rainfall? Okay, look at the trees. Do you think that means there's a lot of rainfall? If not, if there's not enough rainfall, what kinds of problems do you think that might lead to for people that live in these countries that fall in the Sahel region? Okay, so if you pause my recording now and give yourself 5 minutes to write down the date and title, underline them both neatly, and write down the start activity in a full sentence. So I think the challenges or problems people would face living in the Sahel region would be. If you finish that early and you still got time, then you give a reason for your answer. Okay, why do you think that would be? And that's all. Thank you. So pause my recording now. We're going to look at where the Sahel region is located. 2 tasks over here and lots of images for you to look at, and then write full sentences. Okay, so it says there, describe where the Sahel region is and include at least 3 countries located here. So for this task, you are going to use this map here. You can see here's part of the African continent. In the orange color, you have all the countries that are found in the Sahel region. The Sahel region runs from these areas here. So the sentence starter, the Sahel, what I want you to write down later on, after I finish explaining the task, the Sahel region is located in the continent of Africa. You could, argue north, south, east, west, what you think. Some countries that are located here are, and then you can name some of these countries in orange. That's task 1. Task 2, use the temperature graphs to pick out key differences between the Sahel and the UK. Then you've got some key things to think about, like the hottest months, coldest months, wettest and driest months. Now, we've looked at climate graphs before. Okay, this one here is a climate graph for the UK. The blue bar graphs indicate rainfall, and you have to read this axis on your left for rainfall. The red line graph indicates temperature, and for that, you have to read the right axis on here. Okay, so that's the UK. And here you've got a country in the Sahel region. Same thing applies, you just got different colours now. You've got the pink bar graphs that indicate rainfall, again, left axis. Blue line graph indicates temperature, and again, it's the right axis. Okay, the axis on your right over here. So there aren't any sentence starters for task 2, so what I would just do is write down hottest months in the UK include, hottest months in Burkina equals, coldest months in the UK includes, and so on. Okay, if you finish early, you've got a extension task. Find the meaning of the word arid. Can you write down the subheading, where is the Sahel region located? Then answer the questions 1 and 2 using the graphs on this sheet over here. Okay, so if you pause my recording now, give yourself about 10 minutes to do this in, because you have to read the graphs and then write down the sentences. So maybe 7 to 10 minutes. Okay, pause my recording now, off you go. So you should have mentioned that some countries located in the Sahel region includes Mali, Niger, Chad, Sudan, Nigeria, etc. Okay. Hottest months in the UK, we can see here, hottest months in the UK, when I'm looking at temperature, so the line graph, we've got July or June, July, August. Okay, June, July, August. Hottest months in a country in the Sahel region. You have you've got April and May, I would say. Okay, or yeah, March to May. And in comparison to the UK, even though there are those few months, there is still, on average, the temperature is a lot higher. You can see that the temperature line graph is a lot higher here compared to the UK. It dips in January and February, for example. Then we have here, coldest months in the UK include January, February, November, December, sorry. Coldest months in the Sahel region, you have January as well as January as well as December. Wettest months in the UK, we've got quite a lot of rainfall. January, November, December. In the Sahel region, you have no rainfall whatsoever in January, no rainfall in December, almost nothing in Feb, March, and November either. The month with the highest rainfall is August for the Sahel region. Driest months I've just said in that answer as well. So what I want you to do is, if you pause my recording, maybe go back and add improvements to your answers if you have got some incorrect. So another 3 to 5 minutes to pause my recording and make sure you add in the correct answers. Now we have our keyword, okay, arid. So arid is an area with little or no rainfall and is too dry for vegetation to grow. Vegetation is another word for plants, okay. We know for plants to grow, you need sunlight and rainfall, okay. Even too much sunlight isn't good for plants, okay, so you need the right amount. As it says there, in the purple box, the Sahel is a narrow belt of semi-arid land immediately south of the Sahara Desert and covers 12 countries. Rainfall is only 1 or 2 months of the year. The average rainfall is very low, and that is a stark difference with the UK. We know in the UK we have rainfall almost every month. It's been quite low lately, obviously, because we have the heat wave. Since the 1970s, rainfall has been hugely below average, and sometimes it has even been 25% below average. So you can start to think about, the start activity. What sorts of issues might people face if they haven't got enough rainfall, if they've got too much sunlight? Can you pause my recording now and give yourself about 1 minute to write down the keyword if you haven't already done so? Highlight the keyword in a different colour as well, thanks. Now you are going to watch a clip that I've linked on Google Classroom. Okay, it's a news report. You're going to watch the clip and write down the problems that people face. So if you write down the subheading, what problems are people facing? And then as you watch the clip, pause the clip, add bullet points to your list. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 10 minutes to do this in. 10 minutes, off you go. As you've watched that, you should have written down some points such as droughts. Okay, droughts mean not a lot of rainfall. The soil gets really dry, plants can't grow. People in this region rely on plants for crops, so food even. So they're going to have lack of food. If there's lack of food, there's going to be malnutrition, meaning they're not being healthy, not getting enough nutrition. Worst case scenario, in the long term, this could lead to lots of deaths in the UK, in the Sahel region. Okay, so you should have hopefully got some of those points as you're watching the clip. If you haven't, again, can you please pause my recording and write down a few of those problems I've mentioned right now. Now we're going to look at some of the key issues on the Sahel. Okay, there are 2 tasks, and to do this you will need these cards over here. So it says there with your partner, okay, you can do this with a partner, you can also do it by yourself. What you are going to do is number these issues from 1 to 10, okay, in order of being the most important issue. So 1, you would argue, according to you, that that's the most important issue, the most severe. Number 10, what's the least severe issue for people living in this region? In this orange star, it says, remember, some of these impacts are not about the Sahel. So that probably means it won't be high on your list. For example, this one here, 50% of the world's rivers and lakes are badly polluted. It has nothing to do with the Sahel region. So I would argue that this point here would probably be about 10 to 9, kind of low on your list. So remember that, not all of these points are related to the Sahel region. Because that one clearly says the world's rivers, okay? After you do that, task 1, you then have to write down 4 kind of sentences or mini paragraphs about the first 4 important issues. Write them down in your books, then describe how this has other social, environmental, or economic impacts. It could be a bit of both, it could be all 3. I've given you an example there, okay? In blue, I've got point. The UN estimates that sub-Saharan Africa loses 40 billion hours every year collecting water. That is the point I have got from this card over here, okay? What I've then done is I've described how this has other social, economic, or environmental impacts, as this time that is spent collecting water could be used for work and people earning money. Also, if it's children collecting water, they should be at school, meaning that you miss out on an education. So you can see how I've added the point from a card and then I've added detail to how it's social, economic, or environmental. What you might want to do for the ranking of this, okay, the first task is you could screenshot, mark up, 1, 2, whatever you think, 10, for example, 3, etc. Sorry. And then have that saved on your iPad, and then the next, you can use that to do task 2. I am going to give you about 10 to 15 minutes to do this task in year 7s. Make sure you add detail. If you finish early, you might want to do what I've done here. In one colour, highlight your point. In another colour, highlight your description. So then when you look back at your work, you can see how much detail you are adding to your points when you elaborate and explain them. Okay? So if you pause my recording now, year 7s, give yourself about 10 to 15 minutes to do the same. Your last task, think about what you have learnt today. Try and do this without looking back through your book, so from your memory. Where's the Sahel? What countries are here? Challenges. And then you can try and think about solutions that they might have to think about. Okay? Use these keywords to help you in the pink box. If you've got time and it's not the end of the lesson yet, can you go through your books, make sure everything's neatly presented, highlighted, and you have completed your work to a good standard to the best of your ability. Well done.